This series began talking about two main trends online that bothered the hell out of me. One, the idea that it is somehow not necessary for a girl to have guy best friends, or the other way around, or a man to have girl best friends. And the second sentiment was that this creates a sort of distrust in your partner to hang out with other people of the other sex because there's somehow no need to do so. I said in the first two videos that this creates a toxic dynamic between men and women and even within your relationship, and so I've explained the first two questions that I posed. One, why it is necessary to have a friend of the other sex, and two, why the way we think about relationships makes them more toxic. And now we are finally ready to talk about the last part of how we should navigate our relationships in a way that make the most out of them, so to prevent cheating and make sure that relationships actually work. Dating and relationships has always been difficult, but it's especially difficult nowadays. Now we see an emergence of cheating. Research has actually shown that Gen Z seems to be the most cheating relationships. And therefore you get lots of good creators, of which I love their content, that casually say that men are just more toxic nowadays and want to return to the old ways. But that makes it actually more difficult to have healthy relationships. Because even though you can, for legitimate reasons, grow distrustful of people in dating, being distrustful of your partner actually makes your relationship worse. Worse, because if you do not trust your partner, you might need to take measures to prevent it. And in your mind, it seems logical to start isolating them from their social safety net. Think about not wanting them to associate with girls because that is not needed. Or thinking that it is disloyal to go out at a night or post some pictures on the internet because they might be disrespectful and people might get the wrong ID. All of these things, there's no matter that it's right or wrong for it, or acceptable or unacceptable. You need to navigate that with your partner. But the moment you start distrusting them, there is no line to be reasoned with. But that line might actually be legitimate. When we think about Gen Z, some studies have shown that as high as 40% of relationships have cheating in some form. And I think it's kind of weird to think that there is something inherent about young people that makes them more likely to cheat. It's probably a phenomenon that has happened a lot throughout history, but has just taken on different forms. So most likely, if it's not something inherent about young people, there are a multitude of factors that combine to make this surge of cheating happen. Today we're going over a 2017 study of young adults self-reporting as motivating factors for their infidelity. They resulted in 8 factors. So we'll look at them and see if we can prevent cheating and how we could do so, and also to learn therefore how we can have healthier relationships. The factors are as follows. 1. Anger or revenge. Think about being mad with your partner, wanting to take revenge, feeling that your needs are not being met by your partner, struggling with them all the time, them not being around. Or when your partner does not even have the tools or the willingness to give you the validation that you need. You can already see that there are some underlying relationships dynamics that you can improve on this factor specifically. 2. Falling out of love. Sadly, this happens in most relationships, that once you get together and you are full with butterflies in your stomach wanting to be with this person, at some point the love has to take over because the butterflies usually do not stay forever. At that point, you will maybe realize that you might not be very compatible with your partner at all. You might not be into them as much as you thought you were, or not be able to see a future with them. That apparently leads people to cheat. There are some religions, especially conservative religions like the Christianity, that have had traditions like waiting until marriage, saving yourself for marriage before you have sex. And this would be a way that you can potentially prevent the butterflies from fading away. Because they would say that the butterflies is the lovey-dovey feeling that will fade after you have post-nut clarity, for example. And then the commitment, once you're married, will stay. I believe personally that this is only delaying the inevitable. If you are not meant to be together, you can maybe prolong the feeling that you are in love with one another by not having sex and not exploring it. But sexual compatibility is a very important part of being together. So if you only find out that you don't have any chemistry with your person once you are married, you're in for a rough ride. To me, falling out of love in some ways is a natural process. You might not be able to prevent the butterflies from going away, because that's an inherent part of it, but you might be able to strengthen the love before that moment happens that you are no longer in love with them. Think about it like this. If you start to scope out someone better before you lose the butterflies, you might actually have a stronger love to hold on to the moment the butterflies are gone. Think about spending actual quality time with them, asking them important questions, thinking about their values, thinking whether you are compatible with one another, what you like about this person, what you appreciate about them, starting to like things that you might not even have imagined you would like about them. And so, you would get a better picture of who someone is and what you like about them, so the moment the butterflies fade, you have something tangible to hold on to. And I'm not saying that you should just avoid commitment at all costs and explore all of your options on a very shallow level. I'm saying that if you are exploring your options, you should stick to a few and really put in the effort to find out who they really are. What makes you feel good about them? What do you like about them? And then, how well can you communicate with one another? You should not want to change them up front or be sad when the mist clear and apparently you don't like them very much. You should be under no illusions as to who they are the moment the butterflies fade. One way that you can do this is that you can just introduce them to your friends. They do not wear the same rose-tinted goggles as we are when we are infatuated with someone. And so they'll be able to very honestly tell you whether someone is good for you or not, whether you should trust them or not. And that's very important because once the mist fade, they have to fit into your life at some point. The third reason that goes into cheating, when the opportunity presents itself. But this is a tricky one, because if I were to present a cookie to you right now, you might not even eat it when the opportunity presents itself. It usually goes paired with something else, like if you are sad or hungry, for example. I want to find out what makes you want to eat the cookie. And the study also talks about how it's always combined with something else. For example, low self-esteem. If you really seek the attention or the validation and being desired, when someone outside of the relationship gives you that, you are more likely to want to cheat on your partner with them. Other factors that are named by the study are, for example, the need for comfort, or a drunken mishap on a night out, feeling that your partner is not understanding you, having frustration with your partner, feeling that the grass is greener somewhere else. And so these work combined with the opportunity presenting itself. And therefore it is incredibly difficult, because we can work on the relationship to make sure that there's a healthy environment where you can talk about stuff that come up, that some of the combining factors do not happen, and so cheating is prevented in some way. But when it comes to low self-worth and the demons that they have in their mind, you cannot find them for them. Therefore, you cannot prevent all parts of cheating in this instance. Neither should it be your job to limit the opportunities presented to your partner by isolating them, because that actually makes it more likely that they'll cheat on you, because they don't feel the trust and there's no healthy environment, and so they feel more pinned down. Speaking about being pinned down, the fourth factor named is commitment issues, which is very straightforward. If someone has difficulty with commitment, they'll be more likely to cheat on you. Quite straightforward. Most interestingly now, however, is that there's a lack of open communication with one another about what you are. Think about the infamous conversation of what are we? Are we just talking, catching feels in a situationship? Are we wanting to be together? Are we just friends with benefits? All of these things make it difficult to establish boundaries within the relationship and to find out what your partner actually finds unacceptable, or as make it clear to them what you find to be unacceptable. On the one hand, you cannot fix your partner's commitment issues. But when love is a commitment, you can openly communicate and your expectations and establish boundaries together, finding out what you consider to be too far, what they consider to be too far, and so establish these boundaries where you both can live with. Number 5. Unmet needs of some kind. Of course, every relationship is going to have its ups and downs. You're not always going to be able to meet your partner's every need. Neither can they meet all of your needs at every moment. Think about the need for sexual intimacy with your partner. Lots of couples have different sex drives, and therefore, if your partner wants to have sex more often than you do, or even on a daily basis that your partner wants to have sex and you do not, if that keeps happening, that you keep holding it off because you're not into the mood, even if it's for very legitimate reasons like erectile dysfunction, your partner might feel very deflated and rejected and undesirable, creating this unmet need. But even for you, if you're the person holding it off, it can bring a lot of shame when you are not in the mood. It's even the butt of many jokes or middle-aged stand-up comedians saying that I hate my wife, we never have sex anymore. So for both sides, it creates an unmet need for sexual intimacy. The only thing you can do then is to compromise and to talk about it openly of what you both want. Think about it like a menu. Sometimes you are more hungry than your partner is, but you're both going out to dinner, so you both want to get fed. You need to figure out what you want from the menu and what you are able to provide. If you are, for example, the hungry one, and so you are in the mood and have the energy for an 8 that day to eat that much, on a scale of 1 to 10 that is, your partner might just be in the mood for just a 3, so they just want to have appetizers. You cannot force them to get on your level of an 8, and neither can they force you to just compromise and to get to the level of 3. What usually happens then is that you just call it off entirely, but then you have both people with an unmet need of sexual intimacy. And yes, also the 3, because they want to be intimate with their partner, and they also feel somewhat shameful that they cannot give you what you actually deserve. So what these numbers mean are up to you both. You can decide that. If you think that a 1 is just giving each other a hug, a 2 is a massage, a 3 is kissing, a 4 is jumping into bed but just cuddling, and a 9 is going out to a hotel and making a day out of it, that's all up to you. But it's all about making sure you communicate to one another to what you can deliver and make sure that this need is not unmet. So in that scenario where you are hungry for an 8 and your partner only has energy to give you a 3, you can talk about it openly and just say, hey, I know that you are only in the mood for a 3. What can I do to get that number to be higher in the future? Maybe if you have more energy at the end of the day or you feel more hurt, they are going to be more willing to give you a higher number at other times. That can be all sorts of things. Like wanting to do more foreplay, that they might be more in the mood to do it. Or maybe even taking out the trash or doing the dishes so your partner doesn't have to do it, so they are more in the mood to do it when the night comes. It also means that sometimes you just need to compromise and meet each other in the middle. Like if your partner is only in the mood for a 3, so they just want to color, for example, or get a massage, and you want to meet them there, you can go for the 3, but you might talk to them and say, okay, well, I am way more in the mood than you are. Can you at least put in some effort to finish me off, for example? That would make it basically a 4.5. Number 6, a sexual desire to cheat. It's very simple. You cannot fix someone wanting to cheat on you because they have a sexual desire to do so. Number 7, as a reason given of why people cheat. Wanting variety. This is actually about spicing up your life and making sure that you explore new things together. Maybe trying different kinks in the bedroom, or exploring new places, having different ways of communication or different conversations that you have with your partner. It's also about just having attraction to other people. I'm not here going to tell you that there is a proper way to spice up your relationship, but you need to put in the effort to do so. Putting in the effort doesn't mean that you have to do things that you're not comfortable with. If your partner really wants to try polygamy and you do not, You do not have to say yes in order to try to save the relationship and prevent them from cheating. You have to make sure that you stay true to yourself. But it does mean that sometimes when you are doubting whether you're comfortable with something, you might still give it a try. Who knows, you might even find something that you'll really enjoy because you are overcoming the fears that you have. If you're anything like me, you are very hesitant to try new things, but I find out new things all the time that I never thought that I would enjoy. When it comes to wanting variety, make sure that you explore with your partner new parts of life, keep an open mind, make sure that you know what you're comfortable with and not comfortable with, and communicate that with them. So then you can keep the flame lit. It can be whatever you want. There's no right or wrong way to navigate this. I've even heard of couples that are fine with their partner sleeping with other people as long as they don't know about it, and they are quite happy because they care about just coming back together at the end of the day as a couple. And number 8, low self-esteem. That's very easy to understand. People that have very low self-esteem have a higher need for external validation from the outside world. Therefore, once the outside world makes them feel desired and gives them the validation that they want, they're more willing to compromise their principles and needs to go and cheat on you with them. But when it comes to the validation, it's not something that you as a partner can be expected to give them, because the amount of validation that they would need, someone with low self-esteem, is potentially infinite. It might just feel empowering for them to feel desired by someone outside of the relationship. You can keep flirting in the relationship so they do feel desired, but if they really have low self-esteem, you cannot fight the demons in their head for them. All in all, let the biggest takeaway of this study be that if you are the person that is being cheated on, that cheating very often has very little to do with you. You can try your best to make the most healthy relationship, that there is a comfortable environment, that your partner feels that they can confide in problems with and they can come to you when there is something wrong and if there are problems in the relationship. But setting boundaries and openly communicating can only get you so far. It rules out some of the underlying relationship problems that we've talked about, but you can never fully prevent someone from cheating on you. A more important realization from the study is that our desire to control the other to prevent them from cheating is not actually helping to create a healthy relationship, because relationships are built on trust. And in some ways, trust is surrendering control, not to the other person, but just realizing that there are some things in life that we cannot fully control, and neither should we, because trust is both something that we have to give, and so we are vulnerable to be able to be hurt, but it's also something that we build, because first we need to communicate our expectations of the relationship. Then together we will establish boundaries, and at that point trust can be built. If you establish boundaries together and they know about it, the other person can cheat on you and then violate your trust, therefore knowing that they are not worth keeping around anymore. But if they then decide to respect that boundary, that builds trust. So how do you actually navigate these boundaries and set expectations together? One way, a fun way to do it, is with a viral TikTok filter from 2 of my favorite creators that just have couples point up in the sky and say whether they find something cheating or not cheating. Kiara actually speaks more about online behaviors, and the other one also speaks more about concrete behaviors. And the beauty of it is that you do not have to think that everything is cheating or not cheating. There's no right or wrong answer. You just have to agree with your partner. And you have to navigate that together. If you disagree, that does not mean that the relationship is doomed. It means that you have to understand where your partner is coming from and whether you can come to an agreement on it. Important to note here though, is that I personally think most of these things are not cheating, but that's again a standard that I hold myself to. And that sometimes there can be boundaries that are unreasonable, especially if you assert them and not communicate them. That is something we've learned a few months ago from the Jonah Hill scandal. that there can be some boundaries that you just assert that are unreasonable. If you expect your partner to quit their job or just delete all of their social media because you think that they might be too provocative, that might be an unreasonable boundary because it will influence your partner in so many ways, and they might feel that they want to just appease you and stay into the relationship. And even in those radical scenarios where people want to be voluntary trad wives, it might be easy to dismiss them as saying this is extreme and this we should never do. But it's most important that both parties can give their full consent, which is even something difficult to navigate. If you, for example, expect your partner to quit their job, all of a sudden their entire livelihood depends on the relationship and they cannot leave as easily. That might make it more difficult for them to have given full consent because they do not have the ability to leave at any time as well. To me, relationships are two people choosing to be together rather than being single. And so if one person is more dependent than the other person on the relationship, all of a sudden there is not an equality anymore and creates sometimes very toxic dynamics. The best relationships are those where you can trust that the other person really wants to be with you. Consent really is sexy. Making sure that you love someone as much as yourself and wanting to do everything in your power to make and keep them happy. But sometimes bad things happen to good people, unfortunately. And so even though you do everything right, it might still fail. Like we saw in the study, there are some things that you can work on to make the relationship as healthy as it can be to prevent some of the things of cheating. Think about conflict resolution, so being able to talk out problems and prevent larger things from simmering in the background and jumping up later. You can make an effort for making your partner feel seen, heard and understood by being interested in them and trying to meet their needs. You can trust the other person. You can make sure that you keep the flame lit by making an effort to explore new things together, trying out new things. You can check your compatibility before the butterflies fade, so you actually get to know a person on a deeper level, so you appreciate them for who they really are. And all of these things come together to keep the relationship as healthy as possible. But I want to reiterate that it is not your job to prevent someone from cheating. If it happens, it's not your fault. The best thing you can do is just make the relationship as healthy as it can be, so you both have fun from it and you can prevent the obvious troubles from springing up. If they do decide to cheat on you, they made their bed and now they will have to lie in it. Unfortunately though, with someone else. Because you are worth being respected, being in a relationship with. You are a beautiful soul, and I know that because you're watching this video and you're so far into the video. So make sure that the people that you are in a relationship with also appreciate you for who you are. Them violating your trust does not make you damaged goods. It does not make your goods worth any less. Trying to control your partner in a loving relationship is basically like trying to clench a handful of quicksand. The more you're trying to force it, the more sand is going to seep through the cracks. At the end of the day, not all relationships are meant to work, and that's fine. My own experience with my crush also tells me this lesson, because I cannot force a relationship to happen. Even if everything seems to be perfect on paper, that we seem to be perfectly compatible, and I am under no illusions to how great she is, I cannot make her respond. I cannot make her love me. So, to bring together everything in the last few videos, we need to reconsider our expectations around relationships to make them more fulfilling. That is not just reducing the toxicity in romantic relationships, it's also having a richer social safety net for your social needs, so relationships can actually be what they are meant to be, which is fun. It also means making sure that our relationships are not exclusionary, so it doesn't isolate us from the rest of the world. And so in this video, lastly, we talked about how relationships can be navigated by talking about our boundaries, navigating them, and preventing cheating by creating the healthiest environment when a relationship does happen. And if after all of that, you still are not able to trust your partner to make their own decision and still want to be with you, you might not want to be in a relationship. Ultimately, I just want relationships to be fun and to get the most out of it and enrich you with your personal development. Because you don't need me to tell you that you are an absolutely gorgeous human being, both inside and out. And I want you to know that you are worth sticking around for. Just make sure that when you do finally give someone the blessing of being in a relationship with you, that you go into the relationship for the right reasons, that you appreciate them and they appreciate you, so you get the treatment that you absolutely deserve as a queen. That's a long 3-parter that we've just gone through. I hope you really liked it and got through the end of all of it. If you didn't, please go watch the other videos because it all makes sense in context. There's no hate to any of the creators that I have put into the video. I absolutely love most of their work, so I hope it is just a critique of the way that we see relationships and not to the content that they're making. If you really like the videos, please like and subscribe, share with the people that you really love most, so they can also appreciate relationships for the best forms that they could possibly be, and we can create a wholesome community of like-minded people. If you've got any stories to share, please share it in the comments of how relationships has worked well for you or how you're navigating loving yourself more. And if there's nothing further, I'd love to see you in the next one.